you've been at Royal Mail, you've been at QVC, you've been at Virgin, you've been at Accenture, you've been at Nokia.
What a list.
I know, it's like a hit list. You've not been at Coca-Cola, but, we can't have everything. We often ask people if they've been through a crisis, and these bits always give me a little bit of anxiety.
1,000 contacts, received 450,000 emails in the space of about an hour. So
in how long?
Less than an hour. It was just mortifying. It was like the most horrible moment in my marketing career, I think, today.
You've put one in from Royal Mail, which I thought was quite interesting, about the 2012 Olympics.
Twitter just blew up. Literally, people were saying all kinds of things about us there. I literally sat there on TweetDeck just watching all the hundreds of tweets and complaints coming through, and it was just like, you just wanted to hide.
Welcome to Embracing Marketing Mistakes, the podcast where you can learn to double your marketing ROI by understanding the mistakes and lessons from the world's top marketers. I'm Chris Norton, and today we have an exciting episode lined up with Zohe Mustafa, the founder and head of marketing at Growth Hacker. Zohe's experience in AI-driven marketing strategies will give us an insight into how marketers can leverage the power of AI to tackle multi-channel marketing, personalization, and engaging the ever-elusive Gen Z and Gen A audiences. In this episode, we look at a number of different things, including AI, and he tells us so many honest stories. Now, if you like fuck-ups and mistakes, this show is for you because it's got everything in here. There's several, including a HubSpot disaster where 450,000 emails were sent out to 1,000 people in under an hour. If that doesn't make your blood run cold, I don't know what is. So if you like to learn from people's mistakes, this episode is definitely for you. Zohe's so refreshing and honest, but he's also brilliant at what he does. So sit back, relax, and let's hear how you can use growth hacking to grow your brand in 2025. Let's get started. Enjoy. Zohe Mustafa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. So I've been through your history, and you've had a lot of jobs in marketing. First question, how did you get into marketing? Because our listeners are all marketers. They're always interested to hear how people got into it. How did you get into marketing?
So that's a hopefully interesting story. So I literally shared a post about this on LinkedIn the other day, my journey into marketing. I was actually, my first foray was applying for placement jobs at uni to about 300 different agencies, different advertising agencies. This is before AI, before computers were even decent. Handwritten letters and applications, 300 applications, every single one rejected. And I ended up graduating with IT skills and so on, worked in IT for a few years. And then in the sort of e-commerce boom, decided to start my own business and obviously had to do all the marketing from there. Built up a ton of skills from there and ended up getting a job at QVC, the TV channel, in the marketing team, and pretty much progressed from there. So every sort of thing I know from a marketing perspective has been learned on the job.
Okay.
With all the various roles from QVC to Virgin and so on. Lots of big brands who had, very strict brand guidelines and all that. And it kind of honed my skills in that sense.
And you've said that if you could speak to your younger self, you'd tell yourself to stay at Virgin Media. Why was that then?
Just they're masters at brand marketing. We all recognize the Virgin brand, whether it's Virgin Airlines or Virgin Media. They have a distinct style, distinct sort of tone of voice, and they're just really so good at it. I wish I'd stayed longer. If only, I learned a lot in the year that I was there. Got handed huge amounts of responsibility, large sort of £1 million sales for their media products. But had I stayed longer, I think it would have added more credibility to my background. I remember one of my bosses at Nokia asking why I didn't stay longer at Virgin Media with a tone of, you should have stayed longer.
And were you at Nokia in its heyday when it was everywhere with Trigger Happy TV doing?
Yeah, I was there for 3 years, and I was at Nokia before Apple, the iPhone kind of really stole the show. And I remember the whole management team and all the marketing team kind of trying to figure out how we were going to respond to Apple's onslaught of hitting our sales. We went down the whole app market route. I was responsible for driving downloads of all the Nokia apps. Maybe some people remember them. I don't know. We even had our own app store called Ovi. So I was there at the heyday, but I was also there for the decline.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because at one time, which is unbelievable, there was Nokia was the number one phone brand, wasn't it? And then, like you say, the iPhone came out and totally shook up everything with the iPod being on board the iPhone. It was like a game changer, wasn't it?
Device. I remember when I was there, we had over 40%, about 45% of market share for devices, Nokia, at the time. And I think 2008, when the iPhone first started to kind of be talked about, and I remember some of our management saying, "Oh, you don't need to worry about iPhone. Nobody's gonna buy the single sort of screen. You know how you can only have one screen open."
Yeah,
they thought that would like kill it dead, and it was the complete opposite. Everybody preferred it.
During that period, I don't know if you remember, I was working with Sony Ericsson, and I don't know if you remember, it was the first, because the iPhone hadn't come out yet, and Nokia was big, Sony Ericsson was on the scene, and I helped launch this phone, and the revolutionary thing about it was it had a keyboard on the phone, but you slid the screen, and you slid it, and it had a keyboard, so you type, a bit like a hidden BlackBerry type thing, and it was like a big game changer. We could only get 10 or 15 prototypes, and they were so new that we had to be really careful who we picked to give them. This was before influencers, so we were picking like the world's top bloggers, and we were sending them out to them. But I remember getting the prototype myself. I was very excited. Got older one, and it fell to bits in my hand. So I was a bit, the same era. I don't know if you remember that all that time.
Yeah, no, I do remember. My first mobile was an Ericsson P800, and I remember the form factors that you're talking about. Nokia had multiple form factors with sliding keyboards and everything, and we used to do similar things in terms of sending them out to bloggers and influencers, as what they were as known as at the time. And they would love it. They would love to get all the free swag. They'd love to create content about it. I would say that was the early days of influencer marketing. Nowadays, you have to pay them and all that. But
yeah. And so today, then, so you've built up your marketing experience. You've been at Royal Mail. You've been at QVC. You've been at Virgin. You've been at Accenture. You've been at Nokia.
What a list!
I know it's like a hit list. You've not been at Coca-Cola, but we can't have everything. And today you've got your own growth hacking agency that specialises in growth hacking. And if my mum's listening, because she's one of our 2 listeners that listen, can you explain what growth hacking is to the layman person? How would you explain it?
The sort of elevator pitch would be rapid exponential growth, viral growth, trying to capture and create that, not 10 signups, but thousands of signups, using data and A/B testing a lot. So rapid iterations of campaigns, maybe not real time, but at least reacting quicker to data. As for example, if you see that a call to action is not really driving the results, change that in real time, send out multiple versions. But the short version, rapid exponential viral growth, is the nirvana that we're trying to achieve for clients.
Okay, and so if I'm a senior brand manager or a brand manager in let's say I'm in Kent, and I work on a consumer brand, and we turn over we're not huge, but £3 million a year. I've just made this up. And if I wanted to utilize your services, what would you help me do?
Ooh, good question. I think the first thing I do with every client is to, and it might sound slightly cliched and a bit boring, but is to analyze and get a complete picture of their digital presence. So growth hacking works better with online and digital rather than offline stuff, although principles could be applied to offline campaigns. But look for gaps. I do a 50 metric analysis of every publicly available piece of information about that organization in terms of digital data and digital footprint. So visits, clicks, search results, etc. And look for where, you kind of get a feel, having done this for big clients, small clients, what the sort of benchmark is in terms of what you would expect from social, for example, in terms of top of the funnel traffic or email. And where there's small numbers, kind of highlight them in green as an opportunity to improve. And most times you'll see that the low metrics of traffic and conversions coming from certain channels are due to simply the fact that they're not utilizing them that much. And then you can go and verify those numbers by just going to look at their company profiles, their personal profiles on LinkedIn, for example, and you'll see they're not posting regularly, or they're posting regularly, but engagement is low. So that's my starting point, is build a picture of where there's a gap, and then derive solutions to kind of make that stuff go viral. And that's where the content and AI and stuff like that comes in.
So I guess data seems to be key for you throughout kind of all of the marketing activities. And obviously you said you started out in a degree in IT and then you moved over to marketing. Was there a period in time or something, any kind of experience that you had that made you realise how important data was from a marketing point of view to drive growth?
Good question. I mean, data has been ever present. I guess that is the beauty of digital marketing, is that we have so many different data points being collected, from the website to your social presence. If you were to add up collect all the different metrics, I'd say easily over 1,000. I'd say that the earliest kind of learnings that data played a big role was at Virgin. We were spending $1 million a month on paid campaigns, 40 on paid search, 20% on affiliates, and so on, SEO. We had to justify every month that budgetary spend, so the accounts guys wouldn't just sign over the budget. And we had to showcase and prove our case with the results. And it wasn't just enough to say, hey, we got you X million in sales or X thousand conversions. They would track me on metrics like the cost per acquisition, and they were constantly getting me to push it down. So even though I was acquiring customers for them that generated a minimum of 250 quid per year for them, it cost me 30-40 pounds with the paid campaigns. They still were pushing me to drive that cost down. And without that data, I couldn't have done that.
Interesting. And so you put in your notes that, because we often ask people if they've been through a social media crisis, and these bits always give me a little bit of anxiety, but also make me reassured that there's other people out there going through social media. So anybody that's out there dealing with a social media crisis, trust me, we've all been there. But you've put one in from Royal Mail, which I thought was quite interesting, about the 2012 Olympics. Do you want to share the story behind that?
Yeah, so this was just after the main Olympics have ended. I've joined on a contract at Royal Mail. There's this all these big plans to roll out all these new initiatives, new website, etc. New marketing team. We were with an interim team to prepare the ground for the permanent team that would come in, that were being hired. The Paralympics were just beginning to start. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, a row broke out that Royal Mail weren't going to do any stamps for the Paralympians like they had for the main Olympians. And of course, because they're disabled, etc., this was really like annoying a lot of people. Twitter in its early, I think this was, still quite early days of Twitter, and it just blew up. Literally, people were saying all kinds of things about us, and how could you leave these people out? Why are you ignoring the Paralympians? Blah, blah, blah. Because we were an interim team, we hadn't set up all our sort of processes and tools. We were literally evaluating a social listening tool called Meltwater at the time. We hadn't signed the contract. And
you're on the free trial.
There was no way. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and we couldn't respond to the flood of inquiry, not inquiries, but tweets coming through. So in case of managing it, the only thing we could do was sit there. I literally sat there on TweetDeck just watching all the hundreds of tweets and complaints coming through, and it was just like you just wanted to hide.
Hundreds? How long did it go on for that?
Hours, all day. I mean, a normal 9 to 5 work day. I think around lunchtime it kind of blew up, and I was sitting there watching it for hours on end. I don't know if you ever used TweetDeck, but if you kind of put your feeds in, and there's lots of tweets going by, then it's just like a film reel or something.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah,
I mean, you couldn't read all the tweets, much less respond to them. Had we had something like Meltwater in place, where you can have sort of canned responses, the common themes, we could have sent something back, oh, we're sorry, or whatever, we're looking at it, or anything, but there was just no response.
Just silence.
Did you not issue a statement then saying we're going to come back and deal with this?
I think yes, the president, the sort of PR guys and all that after did issue some sort of response, but in that particular period when it was really going mad on Twitter, there was not a lot I could do.
So what did your boss say the day after?
It was a collective shrug of shoulders, as in none of us saw that coming. But that's the thing, I guess, when you're working with the larger brands, the crisis planning was another lesson to be learned, I think. Never assume that you will not be embroiled in a crisis when it comes to social. The bigger the brand you are also. And this was also when Royal Mail was still public sector. It was just before they went private. So even more scrutiny because it's a public brand and so on.
And talking of mistakes, obviously the show's all about mistakes, and we've got yours on here. Before we get into your mistake, though, I'm interested because CRMs, right? So you're a data man. You're an email. You test different email formats. You're split testing. There'll be a lot of marketers nodding their heads, knowing exactly what you do. How do you choose a decent CRM, and have you got one that you prefer over the others, or is what I mean? Which is your favorite?
In terms of preference, definitely HubSpot. There's lots of over 1,000 sort of CRM solutions out there. I prefer HubSpot just simply because of, number one, the UI and the ease of use. If you compare it to something like Salesforce, which is mind blowing. With HubSpot, it's just really easy to use, and then it's just got huge capability in terms of you can run 5 different channels: paid, email, social, etc. So it's not just an email sort of CRM tool. It's a whole marketing suite, and then the personalization aspect. So you can have over 300 properties per contact. In terms of data on them, and if you utilize even 50 of those properties, you can get to some serious level personalization when it goes to the outbound campaigns and stuff like that. So that's my preference in terms of selection criteria. I mean, I could probably do another whole podcast, but I've done things where you kind of capture what are the basic requirements of your team, and then see how that CRM fits those requirements.
Yeah,
would be the short version.
A lot of people go through that painful process of moving from one to the other, but we use HubSpot, so that's quite interesting. So then, HubSpot, you did an amazing nurtured campaign, but it went horribly wrong. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so again, I'm supposed to be a HubSpot expert, certified, etc., taking quite a few of the tests. And I guess you maybe become a little complacent when you've been using. I think that was that particular role. That was probably my 8th HubSpot build, so 8th time of using HubSpot with a different company, and launching a campaign. There was 1,000 or so of our sort of high value, high powered contacts. Major brands. Some of these were like personal contacts of the CEO of the organization I was at. And I was setting up a nurture campaign. We were launching a new service, I think, one of our sort of AI offerings and stuff like that. And I set up this really intricate, I don't know if you've ever used HubSpot, but there's this workflow section You mentioned you use it. There's this workflow section where you can set up, automated nurture campaigns and so on. Again, being too clever for my own good, I set up lots of complex branches and if-then statements, and if this person does this, then do that, and etc. So it was already quite complex. And then HubSpot has this auto-enroll feature that will automatically enroll contacts into a campaign. I, of course, switched that off because I had subsequent multi-level branches of conditions of send this email if this happens and send this email if that happens. And I thought, I'm fine, everything will be good. Unfortunately, a HubSpot update went out, which meant that the software changed literally overnight, and there was an additional setting to unenroll people.
Yeah.
I didn't know about that, so I just left it on. What ended up happening was 1,000 contacts received 450,000 emails in the space of about an hour. So each person,
in how long? What time frame?
An hour.
In less than an hour. It literally went into a loop.
Yeah.
Luckily, I found out about it in that hour. Otherwise, it would have been higher. But yeah, I mean, this went out to major brands, and you're getting all these pissed off emails coming back to me and my CEO, the ones who were like kind of, and these, again, I'm talking like major financial institutions in the city. And it was just mortifying. It was like the most horrible moment in my marketing career, I think, to date. And I've made tons of other cock-ups, but this one was really up there with screw-ups.
I think if I received 450 emails in an hour from one person, I would be a bit pissed off. You're right. I don't even know how many that is a minute.
Yeah.
I need to do the maths on that. That's a lot.
I suppose the only saving grace.
Yeah, I was sending them seconds.
The only saving grace is there. You could just potentially try and totally blame the software.
Oh yeah, definitely blame the software.
It's like there is, a little bit of an out. Look,
I can see an email going out saying, "Sorry, we've had a slight software glitch." Because I received an email marketing piece last week, and it said, "Hi, first name."
We've all been there.
We've all
on
done
our
that.
old media list.
Everybody out there, everybody listening to this has done that. Hi, first name, or hi, company name. Everybody's done that. If you haven't, you're a liar, I think.
To be fair, my boss then said, you've got to send an apology email. And I was like, oh, God, I don't want to send any more emails. But I ended up sending the apology email. And the majority, 99% who replied, were very gracious and said, look, it happens to all of us.
Yeah, it does.
And they felt my pain and empathized. But,
I think an apology is worth a lot.
Super embarrassing.
Yeah.
A personal apology is worth a lot because, sometimes you just catch people at bad times. Like, we've all unsubscribed from stuff that we don't want because there's so much email crap out there. But everybody's done it everybody's done that in marketing. They've sent an email to the wrong list or BCC'd the wrong person, or we've all done it.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed reading your notes because there's just so many things that just made me think, been there, done that. We're all in the same boat. I think a lot of these things.
One thing that we've never done, though, is you talk about a PR you've done some PR campaigns. And I read this, I thought, my God, what have you done here? We asked you if you could share a PR campaign. You said that you did a PR campaign, but it got zero coverage, and obviously all our campaigns get coverage. So, do you want to explain? Not always. That was a joke, obviously.
Yeah. We had hired. This is at the same organisation, by the way. I'm not going to mention the names. We had hired probably the biggest PR agency in the UK. I think I'm not sure, but if not the biggest, then probably near the top 5, whatever. The goal was brand awareness, press coverage, share of voice. I'd set up this whole tracking software to track our share of voice and how we were going to, really grow really fast and all that. The first sort of 4 or 5 months of working with them were not as successful as we'd hoped, I guess. And maybe there was a bit of naivety on our part from a PR perspective, not being PR experts, and that's why we hired the agency. But yes, it was radio silence. The angles that we were coming out with, the sort of information we were sharing, and these were again prominent publications, FT, etc. We were trying to get into, but yeah, first couple of months we were slightly worried we'd made the right call in terms of partnership and even the content that kind of we were picking to kind of feature. I guess you guys are probably more familiar with how the PR world works, and nobody was biting on any of the different. And we tried different types of content, whether it was more technical, a bit more sort of about the people, whatever angle we came with was getting limited.
And you got nothing for how long? How long was that?
It was at least the first 5-6 months. Whereby we're planning the campaign every month, producing content to support it. It wasn't just a case of finger in the air type stuff. There was lots of planning behind it, and we created lots of supplemental content to kind of share, PDFs and mini websites and videos, etc. And it just didn't bite. I guess it may have been unknown brand, slightly smaller brand this was, and we're coming to these journalists through our despite the fact there was this big agency, but we were an unknown quantity, and they needed to kind of get used to the sort of stuff we were talking about to eventually pick us up. So it did get better the second half, but the first half of the year was not so great.
I think you're being generous there. 5 or 6 months. I mean, I would expect to be fired if we didn't get any coverage for a client 5 to 6. We usually tend to say to a client, look, if we start on a retainer or on a project even, like if you do a project, it's like 3 months. But the first month is usually getting everything up and running. You might not get your first story out till the 3rd week or the 4th week or whatever. So yeah, you can expect the first 2 months maybe. But after that, I'd be like, if I didn't get anything by month 4, I'd have been sweating if I'd have been that.
Yeah, I mean, even then there was a sort of maybe a bit of naivety on our part that we didn't press them sooner, as in shouldn't we have got something by now? I mean there was like the small trade publication that had like 10,000 visitors or something, but in terms of tier 1 big publications, there was radio silence.
Right. I mean, yeah, that gives me anxiety just listening to that. So in 2024 then, you've mentioned that you do, you've talked about the future of AI driven marketing. Every marketer listening to this knows that we love AI. We've talked about it a lot. I actually steer away from talking about it too often, because if you want to talk about the future, it's all we can talk about is AI and using AI to generate content, etc., etc. So what is it that you bring to the party in terms of AI? What sort of processes do you go through? If a marketer's listening to this and thinking, actually, we don't use AI at all, what do you do? Do you run AI workshops, or what is your process?
I have done AI workshops, yes. The biggest thing I guess the learning I've seen from the various organizations that I've done these kind of workshops with is because I guess it's still quite new, even despite the fact there's lots of content and coverage about AI out there, is how to implement it into your workflow quickly and get that sort of, I mean, again, it's not huge costs sometimes. But to get the best value out of it is kind of where I focus my workshops on, in terms of what tool selection, and then what parts of your marketing process will you hand over to AI, or at least get AI to do the first draft, and making it day to day, right? I guess pre-AI, we were used to working in a certain way, probably with agency partners or in-house teams. Everybody will do their parts for that particular campaign, and then once all the material is ready, you'll get that campaign launched. With AI, I guess because we can do so much more faster, there's that, but then there's the quality aspect, and you don't. Everybody knows not to use the first draft of AI. You've got to put your human input into it. So I guess implementing it into their day-to-day workflows is the most common theme of trying to work with AI
And so,
more regularly.
and so your hot tip for, if you had one hot tip for marketers AI today, what would it be? What would you recommend they use?
I think this may apply to B2B marketers a bit more, but probably to B2C. You know how we send out these white papers and PDFs and lead magnets. Sometimes they can be quite long and quite boring to read. I highly recommend popping that PDF into Notebook LM and letting it generate a podcast for you. And it does it in minutes. It is about 1,000 times more engaging than having to read this 25 page document. And as a tip for non-marketers or anybody who wants to kind of more sort of on a personal branding type of thing, pop your CV and your LinkedIn profile into Notebook LM and listen to the output that it brings out about you.
I'm going to do that.
Believe me when I say that it tells you better than your CV and LinkedIn ever will.
I think I might edit this and put Vicky's on the end of it. We did a show with somebody that recommended
super engaging.
We did a show with somebody who recommended a AI music tool, and then we created a song about the show, and it was cringeworthy. Have you heard some of the AI songs? They're so cringe.
I've created a song with AI, and yes, it was quite funny. But yeah, this notebook thing with your own profile, my mind was blown. I literally did it like yesterday, and I was like, wow, this is good.
That's our afternoon activity sorted.
Yeah. So
it'll only take about 5 minutes.
Yeah. What do you think's the future? Well, first of all, there's hundreds of products coming out all the time with AI. Do you think Microsoft's CoPilot is the best thing to go down? Because you've got ChatGPT, you've got Claude, you've got Gemini, you've got like 4 or 5. At Prohibition, we've run a few workshops with some of our clients. We've run several webinars, and I do what you do, which is go through processes, and we'll look at how we can improve processes. And then we looked at CoPilot about 5 months ago, and it wasn't quite as good as the others. It's better because it's inside your ecosystem of what you're doing. But it's not cheap either. It's 25, I think, pounds per user. So essentially, for me, it's like rolling out an employee, or everybody gets CoPilot into what they do, and it becomes part of what they're doing. Or have you got a cheaper growth hacking way of getting around that?
So CoPilot came out with its latest update the other day. It looks a lot better. It's got the voice feature now too. That's one thing to add. Personally, I don't know if it's a hack or anything, but I use them all. I don't just rely on one. So if you can see my desktop now, I have literally over 100 different tabs open, and I've sectioned them. So all the chatbots are on one tab, all the video sort of visual creative stuff is on another tab. And I jump between them. Certain things for certain tasks are better. I've also created my own GPTs on ChatGPT and so on. CoPilot can be extensively customized. The fact CoPilot links to your ecosystem is a plus, but then so does the Google stuff.
True.
And I'm a Google man. I'm not a big fan of Microsoft in general, so CoPilot is probably the last one I'm going to recommend. But it is getting closer in terms of equivalency. But that's what I do. I have some paid accounts, but you can manage a lot with the free accounts. And for certain tasks, certain things are better. So for example, Perplexity is brilliant for research. So for me, it's a starting point if I'm creating content, especially because of the annotations, etc. It verifies its source a lot better. I kind of do my research there, but then I'll push it into other tools to churn out content. If a question comes down to budget, as I said, the majority of tools that I'm using the free version, and I'm getting by just fine.
Oh, good. If I've got one question for you, I don't know if Vicky's got another one, but if you were us, you've been on the show now. If you were us, who would you interview next and ask them for their mistakes?
There's a guy called Charlie Hills. He's, I guess, similar background in terms of marketing and digital and AI. He's sharing a lot of very interesting content I follow regularly.
You got any additional questions?
No, I think that was good. I think
That's
it was
good.
really interesting to listen to all
Yeah.
of those different career highlights and lowlights. We've all got them.
Thank you for having me. It was quite interesting talking about it also.
Zohe, if people want to get hold of you, how can they find you to contact you?
Probably LinkedIn is the quickest and easiest way. Just find me on there. I'm very active on it. I literally spend all day on LinkedIn and post regularly, so you'll probably see me on there.
Is it you though, or is it an AI?
Well, I have shared content using my AI avatar. So I'm not that happy being on camera live, especially. So the AI avatar is a nice way around me not having to be on camera all the time.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming on the show, Zohe. That was really great. I mean, wow. First of all, Zohe shared some fascinating mistakes. Not many people are as open and just share. He went all in, didn't he?
Yeah, I found it quite refreshing. Because I'm always like, oh, should I say it? Should I not? Should I not? But he's just straight in. And actually, things that you can't, some of them, you've been there, done that, maybe not to that. I mean, 450,000 emails in the space of an hour to some of your high profile clients.
That's bad. That's bad. I mean, we've had some great fails on here though, but like the guy that took the BBC website down, but sending 450 emails in an hour to 1,000 people, your highest value customers,
and you couldn't hide it from your CEO because he was
copied in, and everybody was replying with rants and raving. Yeah. I mean, that was awful. Then there was the PR campaign that went on for 6 months and they got no coverage, which made me feel great. I was going to say, we're amazing at our job.
Made me think, well, maybe we're not so shabby after all.
We always have to say, bear it in mind, when you start a new account, it might take the first 6 weeks. 6 months? God, easy peasy.
No, but it was really good to hear about, some of those, and like the Olympics one. There's things sometimes that no amount of planning can prepare you for when it comes from...
No, and there'll be people out there listening that have all had a social media crisis. Everybody's had something that's gone wrong, where the social media shitstorm has erupted, and all you can do is watch it go ding, 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 and you sat there thinking, oh, God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And being in the middle of that is... But great to share it.
Yeah. And then we got a little bit of a tip about recreating our CVs. So I think that's going to be...
I mean, you're not going anywhere. You're not allowed to change your CV. But Zach, you can change yours based on the sound editing that you've done during this show.
Zach, you go, I go. We'll go down together.
I thought it was good. I thought it was honest and open.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by the growth hacking thing. And if you're in marketing out there listening, I think growth hacking is an interesting thing. Being able to make businesses grow revenue-based makes sense to me. But it sounds like sometimes it feels like a different specialism.
Yeah. I mean, I've always got questions about it. So
I think a lot of people have got questions. It's good to ask the questions. That's what we're here to do. Be curious and ask the questions.
Yeah. That was good. It was good spending time with you.
Yeah, it was great spending time with you, Vicky. You're much more entertaining than William.
Quite quiet,
thanks for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed the podcast, please remember to drop us a message. We've got feedback left, right, and centre. We've got a feedback button now, I believe, at the top of our show notes. Or leave us a comment, send us an email, send us a carrier pigeon, a hot air balloon,
and subscribe,
a blimp. Like and subscribe. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.